Miss Collier explains!
Perimeter.
Our learning intentions are to understand that perimeter is the distance around a two-dimensional shape, to understand that marks can indicate two or more sides of equal length, and to be able to find the perimeter of a shape when the measurements are given. We will know we are successful when we can find the perimeter of different types of shapes. Today we're going to look at how to calculate perimeter. Perimeters can show up in our everyday life in many different situations. Here's an example of a farmer. This fence marks the perimeter, which is the distance around the outside, of a paddock. Farmers use the perimeter length to calculate the number of posts they would need to build a fence. The distance around the outside of a 2D shape is called the perimeter, 2D meaning a flat shape. The word perimeter comes from the Greek words peri, meaning around, and metron, meaning measure. So perimeter basically means around measure, or measure around in Greek. We associate perimeter with all sorts of regions and shapes. Perimeter can be denoted as a capital P. And of course, the perimeter is the distance around the outside of the shape. We're going to be doing questions where the measurements of our shape are given to us, but sometimes not every single side is going to have a measurement. This doesn't mean we're going to get out our ruler and measure it, because sometimes our drawings are not to scale, but instead we might need to use some math to calculate what the other sides could be. One way we can do this is to check for line markings. We can see in this drawing that two sides have markings with two dashes on them. This means that those two sides are equal length. So we can see that this top length says that it's 1.6 centimeters. Therefore, this side is also 1.6 centimeters. It is really important to remember that sometimes our diagrams are not drawn to scale. So therefore, those two sides might not look like they're even, but we've been told they're even, so we can assume that they are. And as you can see, that does not look like 1.6 centimeters, so it's obviously not drawn to scale. But I do want to remind you that you shouldn't assume things from diagrams. If one side is longer than another, you can't even assume that the length is longer. Someone might have just drawn the diagram really badly, but we must instead use the measurements that we've been given to mathematically calculate how big the perimeter is. So because the perimeter is the distance around the outside, all we have to do is add up all the sides. So perimeter is the sum of all sides. Let's try finding the perimeter. Let's try some together. A is a triangle. Firstly, I need to write a formula. For perimeter, I can write P equals side plus side plus side, because I've got three sides here. Now I need to write down the distance for all those sides. I can see that I've got one side that is 3 plus another side that is 5, but I have one side that I don't know the distance of. But two of these sides do have line markings, which indicate to me that they are of equal length. Therefore, my last side is also 5 centimeters. Now that I know the measurement of all my sides, all I need to do is add them all up. So I'm going to go 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 3 is 13. I, of course, must remember my measurements. I look back here and see that it's centimeters. Now, I actually realize I missed something at the start. At the start of the problem, I should have checked that all of my sides had the same measurement and I didn't need to convert before. So that's something that we should also remember to do. Let's do that now. I'm going to look and every single one is in meters, so that's all good. I don't need to convert anything. Now I'm going to write my formula. P equals, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. I've got 6 sides, so I'm just going to write P equals sum of all sides. Now I'm going to put in all the information I know. I've got a 6 plus a 3 plus a 5 plus a 2. But I've got 2 sides here that I don't know the distance of. These are the 2 sides I have to figure out. Now, I'm going to look at this side down the bottom. I can see that it starts from here and goes all the way to here. So what I want to do is look for the measurements on the other side of the shape and see if I can figure out which measurements equal the same distance. So if I look here, the 3 comes along here and then the 5 comes along here, which if I put them next to each other is the same distance as the bottom. and 3 plus 5 equals 8. So the bottom of the shape must be 8 centimeters. So I'm going to say plus 8. Now I need to do the same on the left-hand side. I can see here that on this left-hand side, that wall is 6 centimeters. On the other side, I can see that I've used up 2 centimeters to go up a little bit. And now I need to figure out how much is left. So if my whole wall is 6 centimeters and I've used up 2, that must mean that I've got 4 left over, which means this side must be 4. So I'm going to write plus 4. Now that I have the measurements for all my sides, I just need to add it up. So I'm going to add the 2 and the 8 to give me a 10. Now because they're all addition, I can add in any order. I'm going to add the 6 and the 4 to give me another 10. And then that leaves me the 3 and the 5, which gives me 8. Now this is much easier. 10 plus 10 is 20, plus 8 is 28. And of course, I must put in my measurements, which is meters. All right, you try find the perimeter of these shapes. Let's see how you went. A, this is a nice strange little shape, not a regular one. Firstly, I'm going to check that all my measurements are the same. They're all in centimeters, so we're all good. Then I'm going to write out the formula, which is P equals side plus side plus side plus side. All right, I can see I've got a 6 plus a 3. Now I've got 2 more sides, but I can see by the little dash that both of those sides are the same as the 6. So that must mean I've got another 6 and another 6. Now what I want you to remember is that let's say that this one had 2 lines and this one had 2 lines. The lines that are the same match. So if it was like this with a 1 line and 1 line, these 2 would be 6. And then 2 lines here and 2 lines there would mean this was 3. So the same number of lines mean the same distance. Now that I've got my measurements, I can add them all up. 6 threes is 18, plus 3 is 21 centimeters. So the perimeter of this shape is 21 centimeters. B. B is a nice odd one as well. We like to call these composite shapes because they're 2 shapes sort of put together. I'm going to check that they're all the same measurements and they're both meters, so we're all good to go. I'm going to write the formula, which is perimeter equals sum of all sides. I now need to figure out the measurement of all the sides. This one can seem tricky because it seems like we've been given very little information, but we can do it. The first thing I'm going to fill in is the ones that match with the same markings. So I can see here this 4 centimeter wall has a marking of 1 line. And I'm going to find the other ones. Here's another line, so that's 4 meters, and this is 4 meters. Okay, now I've just got to do the left-hand side and the top wall. So on the left-hand side, I've got this distance here, which I can see is made up of a 4 meters here and a 4 meters here. So 4 and 4 meters, that is 8 meters. So my left-hand wall is 8 meters. Now I'm going to look at the top. That's all the way here. I can see that that's a distance here of 4 meters and 6 meters here. So remembering, we're trying to find distances that line up to each other. If I move this wall up here to sit right next to it, then I could see that I'd have the same size piece. So that must mean 4 meters and 6 meters, that's 10 meters. Now that I've got all my measurements, I can write them all out. So I've got 10 plus 4 plus 6 plus 4 plus 4 plus 8. I've got a 10, I'm just going to keep that the same. I'm going to add the 4 and the 6, which is another 10. I'm going to add the 4 and the 4, which is 8, plus the other 8, which is 16. So I've got 10 plus 10 is 20, plus 16 is 36. 36 meters around that composite shape. I hope now you know how to find the perimeter around any shape when your measurements are given.